can look it up on your phone as well. If you go to vedabase.io, I think. Vedabase.io.
Right.
And if you go to Vedabase, you'll see library, and then there you select Bhagavad Gita. And then we're looking at chapter 7, text 27. Does anyone need any help with that? So I'm going to lead the Sanskrit. Please repeat after me, if you can. Ichadvesha sabhutena.
Ichadvesha samutena.
Ichadvesha sabhutena.
Ichadvesha samutena.
Dvadva mohena bharata.
Dvandva mohena bharata.
Dvandva mohena bharata.
Dvandva mohena bharata.
Sarva bhutani samoham.
Sarva bhutani samoham.
Sarva bhutani samoham.
Sarva bhutani samoham.
Sarge yanti parantapa.
Sarge yanti parantapa.
Sarge yanti parantapa.
Sarge yanti parantapa. Ichadvesha samutena.
Ichadvesha sabhutena.
Dvandva mohena bharata.
Dvandva mohena bharata.
Sarva bhutani samoham.
Sarva bhutani samoham.
Sarge yanti parantapa.
Sarge yanti parantapa.
Ichadvesha samutena.
Ichadvesha sabhutena.
Dvandva mohena bharata.
Dvandva mohena bharata.
Sarva bhutani samoham.
Sarva bhutani samoham.
Sarje yanti parantapa.
Sarge yanti parantapa.
Ichadvesha samutena.
Ichadvesha sabhutena.
Dvandva mohena bharata.
Dvandva mohena bharata.
Sarva bhutani samoham.
Sarva bhutani samoham.
Sarge yanti parantapa.
Sarge yanti parantapa.
Ichadvesha samutena.
Ichadvesha sabhutena.
Dvandva mohena bharata.
Dvandva mohena bharata.
Sarva bhutani samoham.
Sarva bhutani samoham.
Sarge yanti parantapa.
Sarge yanti parantapa. Anyone else want to try?
Ichadvesha samutena.
Ichadvesha sabhutena.
Dvandva mohena bharata.
Dvandva mohena bharata.
Sarva bhutani samoham.
Sarva bhutani samoham.
Sarge yanti parantapa.
Sarge yanti parantapa. O skin of Bharata, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by the dualities arisen from desire and hate. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Let's take turns reading. We'll go around and you can read 2 sentences and then move on to the next person.
The real constitutional position of the living entity is that of subordination to the Supreme Lord, who is pure knowledge. When one is deluded into separation from this pure knowledge, he becomes controlled by the illusory energy and cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
The illusory energy is manifested in duality of desire and hate. Due to desire and hate, the ignorant person wants to become one with Supreme Lord and envies Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Pure devotees who are not deluded or contaminated by desire and hate can understand that Lord Sri Krishna appears by his internal potencies. But those who are deluded by duality and nescience think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is created by material energies. This is their misfortune.
Such deluded persons symptomatically dwell in dualities of dishonor and honor, misery and happiness, woman and man, good and bad, pleasure and pain, etc., thinking, this is my wife, this is my house, I am the master of this house, I am the husband of this wife. These are the dualities of delusion.
Those who are so deluded by the dualities are completely foolish, and therefore cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Thank you. A very famous verse from the Bhagavad Gita. Every verse in the Gita is potent, important, a treasure, a jewel, but some are even more potent and special and treasured. And so when we were taking turns chanting the verses, I saw Atmanivedana, he didn't look at his phone, he memorized that verse long ago. And
Yeah, about 32 years.
about 32 years ago, he memorized this verse. So yeah, there are some verses that Srila Prabhupada, he would recite very often when he spoke. He would speak in English and then he would cite a verse from the Gita, from the Bhagavatam, a few more English sentences, and then another verse, another paragraph in English, and then another verse. And that's the way he spoke, and that's the way he taught his disciples to speak as well, at least when teaching. And why? Because he would say everything that we teach needs to be based or grounded in the Shastra or these texts. So he's giving, when he quotes the verse, he's giving the evidence. This is the proof. The Veda itself is taken as proof. Today we might cite, in secular society, people cite an academic paper. In the Vedic tradition, then the teacher, the acharya, the guru, the disciple who's learning under the guru, then they cite the teachings of the Veda. So this is one of the verses that gets frequently cited, a very important lesson for us. Icha dvesha. Icha means desire, and here dvesha is translated as hate, otherwise rejection. New York is very famous for many things. One of its fames, or the things that it is famous for, is the stock exchange, New York Stock Exchange. And when you look at the stock prices over time, you see that they're going up and they're coming down and they're going up and they're coming down. And it is being driven by desire and hate, attachment and aversion, or greed and fear. These are the tendencies of our material conditioning. Our mind, if you think about it, our mind is essentially programmed in the material nature to accept and reject, to desire or hate. Observe your mind when you walk on the street, how you judge everything. We say, no judgment, but see how your mind judges. You'll find that your mind is judging other people, tall, short, wide, thin, pretty, plain, polished, unpolished. Our mind is constantly making judgment. You'll see a vehicle, especially if you're a man, your male condition, you say, oh, nice car, or not a very nice car. Other conditioning, we might be looking at dresses, pretty dress, not pretty. The mind is constantly in this dualism, Icha, Dvesha, Raga, Dvesha. Other places in the Gita, Krishna, he says Raga, Dvesha, attachment and aversion. That is our position. What is the basis for that acceptance and rejection, desire, hatred, greed, fear? Yeah.
It's based it's based on the misunderstanding that one's not eternally connected to Krishna. Because if one has the understanding that one's eternally connected to Krishna, then everything that comes to one sees as Krishna's arrangement, and therefore just fine. And so even if it affects one's temporary body and temporary situation within this body in this world in a apparently good or bad way, because it's coming from Krishna, with whom one has an eternal relationship, therefore it's always good. And so there's no reason to have any attachment or aversion to such things.
Thank you. A very comprehensive response. Meru?
I want to say something similar, but because one thinks that a body, like you already mentioned,
Yeah, okay.
in the body.
So identification with the material body. And so in support of both of your responses, we can look to Prabhupada's purport. Second sentence. When one is deluded into separation from this pure knowledge, he becomes controlled by the illusory energy and cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, without proper understanding, we're identified with the material nature, and therefore we're saying good, bad, desirable, undesirable. We are judging things based on material identification. From the transcendental position, it's Krishna's energy. Good or bad, it's Krishna's energy. But from the position of attachment, or let's say identification, then we experience attachment, aversion. So that identification is called ahankara. Ahankara. Ahankara means false ego, false identification. Krishna says, ahankara vibhudatma karta aham iti mandyate. Bewildered by ahankara, by false ego, the living entity thinks, I am the doer of all these things. I am the Lord. I am the Master. I am the enjoyer. Ahankara. Earlier than ahankara, so if there is false ego, that is causing attachment and an aversion. What's causing this ahankara is, second sentence, avidya. Vidya means knowledge, and then in Sanskrit, when we have the prefix a, it negates. And so, avidya is non-knowledge or ignorance. Yeah? So we have a pattern, we have a sequence. Avidya, or ignorance, leading to ahankara. Ahankara leading to raga dvesha, or icha dvesha. Now what do icha and dvesha cause? That's attachment and aversion, or desiring and hating. Yeah? I love you, I hate you.
Yeah, there is a Spanish song, very classic. Te
Yeah.
odio y te quiero.
I love you, I hate you.
And I hate you.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. So much of conflict is between
Right.
close family members or friends. And they say, I'm angry with you because I love you. And it's because I can't control you, or I can't possess you, or I can't have you, or you won't do what I want, how I want. And then that could lead to violence, yeah? So, raga, dvesha, abhidivesha. There's another sequence from here. Raga, dvesha, attachment, aversion, and fear. Or abhidivesha, like death actually. There's violence that comes from this attachment, aversion. Leads to our destruction. Elsewhere in the Gita, Krishna says, Vishayavadi vartante niraharasya. No, he says, while contemplating the objects of the senses, we develop attachment. What's the Sanskrit?
Jayate vishayam
Oh, yeah.
pumsam teshu.
Jayato vishayam pumsam sangas teshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama kama krodo bijayate. While contemplating the objects, there's a sequence, it's really wonderful. While contemplating the objects of the senses, that cake, that boy, that girl, that car, that whatever it is that we're into, whatever our conditioning is, we develop attachment. Jayato vishayam pumsam sangas. We develop sangas teshu pajayate. We develop attachment. We want to be next to it, to have it. Sangat sanjayate kama. That leads to lust. Kama krodo. That lust leads to anger. Krodat, it goes on. Krodat bhavati samohat. That anger leads to loss of bewilderment, or loss of intelligence, bewilderment. Samohat smriti vimbrama, smriti vimsad, yeah, loss of intelligence, memory. Smriti vimsad buddhinaso, buddhinasat pranasyati. And then we lose our mind, lose our intelligence, and we fall into a quagmire. The Prophet says into a material whirlpool. So, yeah, very succinctly, Krishna describes our condition in the material nature, the roller coaster of life. Happy days, sad days. Prabhupada lists the dualities later in his purports. Such deluded persons symptomatically dwell in dualities of dishonor and honor. One day honored, another day dishonored. Misery and happiness, woman, man, good, bad, pleasure, pain. That's the roller coaster. That's the struggle. The difficulty. And then, how to deal with it. Sometimes we say, well, better not to hope, otherwise you might be disappointed. So you go through your life not trying, not hoping, so as to avoid disappointment from that. The other is better to have tried and failed than to have never tried at all. Yeah, better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. So we have different philosophies for how to deal with this. The gladiator philosophy is eat, drink, be merry, for tomorrow we die. So you just indulge, recognizing, yes, it'll be taken from you at some point, but at least you indulged. We have ways of trying to manage this polarity, this dualism, this position of being pulled one way and then the next, being jerked around by the material energy. And in yoga, in bhakti yoga, we recognize that it is, we look to the cause rather than trying to manage at a symptomatic or superficial level. We want to go to the cause of this, to the root. So, so we'll try to deal with it at the level of the mind. Psychology, different, even spiritual traditions, discipline the mind so you won't be attached. Stay equipoised, equibalanced. That could be helpful at some level. But if we recognize it's not just the mind that we have to manage, there's a higher level here. It's ahankara, false identification. Higher than that, there's the avidya, the ignorance. And so in bhakti yoga, we say, well, where do we get that knowledge? Where do we get that transcendental knowledge? If ignorance is the cause, the root cause, avidya leading to ahankara, leading to raga dvesha, leading to abhinivesha, the experience of death. Death means, it could be the death of your car, the death of your house, the death of your job, like that kind of loss. If it is avidya, that is the root, then we seek out transcendental knowledge. And when we receive this transcendental knowledge, it is a secret. Krishna says in the Gita, Raja Vidya, Raja Guhya. This is the king of knowledge, and it is the king of secrets. You might look in the front of our Gita, it probably says something like 10 million copies sold or something. 7th printing, 1996. Okay, 10,000 copies, but I know there have been many more than that. This is an old printing.
Yeah, it's just that edition.
So what printing do you have? Huh?
Take a look. Where does it say?
Okay, current printing, 2023, 200,000 copies. Previous printings, 3.5 million copies.
Huh.
Yeah, okay, let's more
And I wonder if that refers to just
English.
English.
Yeah, that'll be English. So 3.5 million copies can't be that much of a secret, that big a secret. Where's the secret?
By Prabhupada's mercy.
Yeah, so it's printed by Prabhupada's mercy, it's distributed by the mercy of Prabhupada's disciples, but even so, it remains a secret. This transcendental knowledge we receive in the Gita, we receive in the company of bhaktas, of those who try to live by the teachings of the Gita. But it's more than words, it's a revelation in the heart. There is a verse in the Bhagavatam where Prabhupada translates it in the first canto. It says this transcendental knowledge of the Bhagavata, it creates a revolution in the heart of misdirected civilization. Do you know it?
The Sanskrit.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait a minute. No, it's a nice line we used to use occasionally distributing books.
Aha,
Like,
okay.
You say that, people
This
are like,
transcendental
"What?"
knowledge will
Yeah.
cause a revolution in the heart.
And
Yeah.
people are like, oh, maybe I'll check this out.
Right. But that's what we need. A revolution in the heart of a misdirected civilization. So beautifully phrased by Prabhupada. We need nothing short of that. It's more than an intellectual comprehension of the words. You are not the body, you are a soul, you are part and parcel of Krishna. Okay, I heard that cognitively, it's registered. But the actual realization of it, that's what's needed to deal with the issues described in this verse. This Ichadvesha. So, receiving the knowledge, comprehending it, that's helpful as a starting point. How do we actually get that revolution in the heart, or transformation of the heart? How do we get the realization?
By causeless mercy of the Lord.
Okay, yeah, thank you. By grace. Yes?
Yes, as the great Yamuna Prabhu said, by the causeless mercy of the Lord. And not everyone accepts the causeless mercy of the Lord. So accepting it, and accepting means doing something about it. So when the devotees, when you come into the association, let's say, and it's a new experience to hear the beautiful chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, right there, that means one's being given the causeless mercy of the Lord. But as we all know, some people, they go like that, they go away. Right? They can't stand it, some people, or some people seem indifferent. But some people, they hear it, they like it, and then some people, they like it enough and they chant too. So then they're accepting it and doing something about it, and there's more they can do then.
Yeah, so Smarana, Manana, Nididhyasana, there's another framework. Smarana means to hear, Manana means to contemplate, to apply, Nididhyasana means to realize. Shravana, just hearing, comprehending, that's only part of the process. To contemplate, to apply, and then to receive the revelation by Krishna's mercy. He tells Arjuna, Bhakto sime sakha cheti rahasyam yatad uttamam. Because you are my devotee, because you are my friend, I reveal to you this rahasya, this rahasya, uttama rahasya, this very confidential, most confidential truth. So that is something that we need to appeal for. That's something that we need to try to attract Krishna's grace upon us. Please reveal yourself to me. Please reveal this truth within my heart. Let me realize my relationship with you. Let me realize my nature as your eternal devotee. Not this body, but a transcendental being. Satchit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. Let me realize that all of this energy, all our experiences in this world are your mercy, are your grace. The so-called, the good, the bad, the so-called ugly and beautiful, it's all your grace. There's a story in the Bhagavata Purana. It involves a king. The Bhagavatam, written thousands of years ago, says that one day he was flying in his aeroplane. We think of aeroplanes as a modern achievement. Bhagavatam describes people flying in aeroplanes in many places throughout the text. So this king named Chitraketu, he was flying in his aeroplane and he saw from up high, he saw Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva was doing something that made him laugh. Not with condescension, just he thought Shiva's behavior ironic or curious. Shiva was surrounded by many, many saints, renunciants, because they're sadhus, sannyasis. And seated on Shiva's lap was his wife, Durga. Chitraketu thought that was ironic. All the celibate monks in front of him, and there he is. With his arm around his wife. And so he laughed. He saw some irony in the situation. And Shiva's wife cursed him. You proud king, you dare to laugh at Lord Shiva? Your mentality is demoniac, and you will become a demon. Very heavy punishment for a slight offense. There was no animus in his heart. So you might ask, what would I do in that situation? We'll go and plead our case usually, right? We have our lawyer here. We might we might get up invited to Prabhu to represent us. The punishment does not fit the crime. I demand justice. Chitraketu's response was to say, oh, this must be some divine plan. There was no raga dvesha He went to Shiva's wife and said, "Thank you for your care. You have punished your misbehaved son." That means you care. And as he left, Shiva turned to his wife, Parvati, and said, you see the bhaktas, those who have received the grace of Krishna, they are not disturbed. Heaven, hell, so-called good, bad, happy, they are seeing everything as God's grace. So very instructive. Narayana parasarve nakutashtada vidyate svarga pavarga. Heaven, hell, they're seeing apitul yata darshanam, they're seeing Krishna's grace there. That's real equipoise. So, is this achievable for you and I? Is this just an intellectual concept in a book? Or is it something practical? And my appeal to you, echoing the words of Srila Prabhupada, is that it is indeed practical. This is real, this is livable, this is possible. It is possible to apply this, to live this, to detach from icha, dvesha, attachment and aversion, to go back to dissolving the identification with the material body, ahankara, or material mind, senses, sense objects, through the cultivation of transcendental knowledge, not knowledge for the sake of knowledge. Some may read many books, get many degrees, do lots of research, just knowledge for its own sake. This knowledge that we're speaking of here, Vidya or Veda, it is not that. It's not about how many languages we speak or how many books we have read or cultural references we can make in conversation. This is transcendental knowledge of our relationship with Krishna. That may be had by anyone, any walk, any station in life. So yes, indeed, this is livable, this is practicable, it is practical. We may cultivate this at a deep level, still operating in the world of duality and my house and my car and my job, but at a different level. There's one level where we engage and apply ourselves, and then one level back we're witnessing it all. We say, well, this isn't actually me or mine. This is all convention. The convention is to say, my house, my clothes, my job, my title, position, and then stepping one step back, you are aware constantly that at the deeper level, these are all temporary material arrangements, attachments. It's a drama that I'm playing. The example is like that, as a drama. So when you're in a play, you're the king, and these are your subjects, and that's your wife or your husband and your minister. So you identify with all these roles, but you know inside, I'm not actually that. That's the part I'm playing in this drama, so long as it lasts. But I have my own distinct identity. And so the bhakta in the world is like that. At a conventional level, there's identification and engagement with all of these things. And then at a deeper level, there's a recognition. These are parts, these are roles, this is a play. And who I am, at my essence, is I'm a spiritual being. And at some point, I know this drama is going to come to a close, the curtains will close, and I need to be grounded in my deeper spiritual identity. My relationships need to be at a deeper level. My relationship with Krishna, my relationship with others in connection with Krishna. And so that's why Chitraketu is not disturbed when he's cursed, right? Okay. The curtain's closing on the king play that I'm playing right now. I'm going to be playing another role. Shiva's wife has delegated for me to take up a new character in a new drama. And that's all. Yeah. One drama, one season you're the hero. Next season's drama, you're the villain. For Chitraketu, he was being assigned the villain role. The Bhagavatam tells us how he played it. His next birth. He goes and fights with Indra, and Indra's scared. And Chitraketu says, come on Indra, do your duty. You're supposed to fight me. I'm supposed to attack you. This is the drama we're playing here. You know the script. And Indra was really afraid because he was really attached. Chitraketu was at a transcendental level. And then when Indra wasn't played, he wasn't played from the script, and Chitraketu prayed to Krishna. Krishna, please guide me here. I'm trying to do my part. He's scared. And he prayed that whatever the situation, please never let me forget you. That was his prayer. As I play this part, let me never forget you. Let me always be connected with you. That's the vidya, that's the transcendental knowledge. That cures all of this duality. Duality that makes us flitter around like a leaf being blown around by the wind. Because it's so light, the leaf gets blown. The rock doesn't get blown. It's the leaf that gets blown. So when we are light because of not having that gravitas of transcendental knowledge, we get flittered around. happy, sad, good, bad, awesome, terrible. That's called lagu. Lagu means light. Light, not as in light, not in the that which enables us to see, but light as in
Material.
huh?
Material. Father.
Yeah, that kind of lightness. And then the opposite of lagu is guru. Sometimes guru is translated as heavy. Have you heard that translation for guru?
Yeah.
Heavy. Doesn't mean mean or cruel or cross. It means having that gravitas, that steadiness, that equanimity because of being grounded in transcendental knowledge. Okay, we'll open it up for any comments or questions, reflections. Yamuna Prabhu.
We say that avidya is the cause of dualities, but in the case of Brahmaji, when he first was born,
Uh-huh.
he was born without any knowledge
Uh-huh.
and ignorance. But did he suffer dualities? Because like nothing was mentioned of that, he just was bewildered about what was going on, and then he went up. Or in the case of a child born and is not fed any kind of knowledge, they don't know what to identify as. There's a story in the Mahabharata about a king who had a son, and when his son was born, immediately he sent the son deep into the forest with his teachers to teach him. So he never saw any girls. But by some scheme, somebody sent some girls there. And when he saw the girls, he didn't know who they were.
Right.
So,
Rishi Shridga.
so does avidya by itself cause duality?
Avidya leads to false ego, false identification. So Brahma, the first created being, the story you've referenced in the Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 3rd canto, it describes his awareness of himself as existing, but not knowing who he is or where he is or what he's supposed to do. So he tries to discover himself or his roots, his source through empirical methods, climbing down the lotus stem, tracing the lotus stem to find his origin. So then he receives some guidance, tapa. He hears an instruction that he should meditate, that he should perform bhakti yoga, Prabhupada says. So he's at a, for your analysis, you say he doesn't appear to show this hatred or desire at that stage. It's bewilderment. So we might say he's at the stage of, because this is a stage model, avidya leading to ahankara, ignorance leading to false identification, leading to attachment and aversion. He's searching for knowledge, he's bewildered, he's searching for knowledge, and then Krishna directs him how to find it. He says, go within, meditate, and then Krishna reveals the Veda to him within his heart. So he's at early stage. Should that continue, it's a sequence, right? So that lack of knowledge will lead to false ego. That's the next step from there. Brahma's searching for transcendental knowledge. Should he not get it and identify instead with some material identification, then the next sequence would be that attachment and aversion.
Everything is described as energy, just like the three layers of material energy, and these energy cause us to act in a certain way based on what we are. The energy by itself is just there, and ahankara is also an energy. So when we're in a certain frame of mind, certain thing, then this energy allows us to identify with what we are doing. Is it something like that?
Yeah, okay, so ahankara is one of the elements of the total material energy. Pradhan is activated, total material nature is activated by the glance of Vishnu, and that generates ahankara, the three modes of material nature, and then they mix together. Ahankara with ignorance produces physical sense objects, ahankara with passion, senses, ahankara with goodness produces it. So the 24 extend from ahankara. So to your question about ahankara being energy, but we are born in that ignorance. When we take birth in the material nature, we are born with that ignorance. Brahma's position is transcendental. We are born with that ignorance, and we are transmigrating from one material body to another in that ignorance. And according to our identification with the material nature, we're given other bodies. So it's at a very, very primal, fundamental level for us. Even pre-birth, we are in that state of avidya, ahankara, and then we're born in different positions of ragadvesha. When we are born in the body of a dog, then we think that the bone is the thing that is attractive. And not getting the bone, we're upset. When we're born in the body of the cow, then we're thinking the grass is that thing which is very nice and attractive. And so we're disappointed when it's dry, or whatever the case may be. So depending on our ahankara, we're taking different bodies, and then according to those bodies, we're saying this is nice, that's bad, this is desirable, undesirable. We're experiencing fear from that, and then loss, death. So it's already pre-birth. This is very primal. And therefore, human life is considered to be a blessing. Because of the human form of life, the conditioning or the covering over the soul is less, so there's more of our consciousness that shines through the covering, and we can get access to transcendental knowledge. That's the special blessing of the human form of life. Arjuna Maharaj, he often starts his public lecture by quoting Vedanta Sutra, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. And he gives an extended translation. Now that you have achieved the human form of life, now inquire after the absolute truth. Because the cow and the monkey and the elephant and the giraffe, they're unable to engage in this kind of spiritual inquiry.
So it says in the verse that you are born into this delusion.
Uh-huh.
So, like Adam and Eve, they were born into a situation that was created by God. So someone might say, well, we are also born into this delusion, circumstance was created by God, so it's not our fault.
Okay, we want to blame someone else. Yeah, all right. So who's to blame for our conditioning? I will answer your question directly, and we have a nice answer in the Bhagavad Gita. And thank you for asking the questions to give the opportunity to share the answers. But before I answer directly, I'll say, but why should we argue over who's to blame? At this stage, we are conditioned in material attachment and aversion that's causing fear and identification with death. So let's try to reverse that. We're being given a formula to do so. Reverse the false identification means cultivate transcendental knowledge. Why should we be arguing over whose fault it is? But okay, you have raised the question, and so the answer given in the Vedic teaching is that God is the creator of everything, and God is responding to our desire. And so when a child says to their parent, I want to go and do this thing, and the parent saying, it's not a good idea, I wouldn't advise it. No, but I want to. And the parent will say, okay, sure, yeah, here's some money for your fare or your... It's not that the parent wants the child to do this thing, but then when the child insists, then the parent may facilitate, even though they know this won't work out well. But they hope that the child will learn from it and come back home wiser for it. And so when we express the desire to enjoy the material nature separate from God, then he arranges the forgetfulness, that avidya, that ignorance is a state of forgetfulness, and then allows us to identify with the material nature, these bodies, as we try to enjoy the material world. That is a response to our desire or our will. Prabhupada would say, misuse of free will. We have been given free will, and misuse of free will lands us in this condition. In the state, the government doesn't control every decision of the citizens. They're given freedom to choose, to make choices. Some things will land the citizen in prison. The government doesn't desire that people will go to prison. But sometimes when the citizens misuse their free will, they've given so much freedom, but then they decide to take it to an excess and steal or cause harm to another, then you're crossing a boundary. And so there is a prison that the government has also created for those citizens. So yeah, this creation, it is a gift to us by God. He's facilitating it in response to our will, our desire. And in it, there are some rules, yeah? So those rules are creating our experiences of karmas. Some karmas are rewards, other karmas are sufferings or punishments. And therefore, every day, some things they appear to us pleasurable, and other things we are receiving, we experience them as suffering or pain. It is a response to our choices, our decisions in life. That free will that we have, it has parameters, it has boundaries.
How far does the free will extend? Is
Yeah,
it limited?
it is limited.
What's the limit?
So we can remain in the material nature so long as we want. That is limitless, should we so choose. But in terms of what we can do here, there are boundaries. So because we're identified with the material nature, and the material nature has its conditions, means the material nature is in a constant state of change or flux. It has its beginning, middle, and end. And so we're constantly experiencing, so long as we're identified with the material nature, then we're constantly experiencing beginnings, middles, and ends. The new car at some point becomes an old car. The new job becomes an old job. The young body becomes an older body. The new clothes become old clothes. And so everything we experience is with these properties, and because we're identified with them, because we're identified with the material nature, then we experience birth, disease, old age, and death as happening to us. When in fact, as souls, we are transcendent. The soul is never born and never dies. Oh yeah, those are some boundary conditions.
Can we say that the free will allows us to desire limitlessly, like we all experience? We have limitless desire. So, is that like one aspect of free will, the desire unlimitedly?
Yeah, and even so, desire, unlimited desires, but so desire is one thing, but actual achievement of those desires or realization of those desires, it is also very broad, but it is bounded by the limitations of the material world. So there are higher planes of enjoyment, but even in those higher planes of enjoyment, still we will experience birth, disease, old age, and death. So that desire can be so much as we can conceive, and in terms of achievement or experience, it, from a material perspective, we say the world is the limit, but the world does have limits. But otherwise, the world is the limit. Yes.
Hi.
Hi, Julie.
Well, I have a couple of questions.
Please.
Prabhuji says in the purport,
Confused. Sorry.
Due to desire and hate, the ignorant person wants to become one with the
Oh,
Supreme
yeah.
Lord and envies Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My impression is that people that are deluded and not in Krishna consciousness don't even think about God.
Right.
What I don't understand is why. Why? How would they want to become one with him, and how would they feel envy?
Yeah.
Or under what circumstance they would feel envy?
Right.
Because I just don't see them thinking about God. I see them thinking about themselves and thinking about what they want materially, etc., etc.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for the question. So, excellent. So this happens at many, many different levels. We have many different ways of dealing with this. Some will try to kill God by saying, God is dead. I don't know if you know Nietzsche, the philosopher. So they will argue against God. Some atheists, they'll make it their life's purpose to deny God. And sometimes we have a saying in English, "Sir, thou doth protest too much." When someone protests too much, it's either they're guilty or an atheist who's made their life's purpose to deny God. They're believing God, right? Otherwise, why would this cup doesn't exist? Anyway, so that's one one way that manifests. Another is to be philosophically to Okay, let's another is as a materialist trying to compete with God. Compete with God in the sense that we want to be God, we want to be the one that everyone loves, that everyone worships and serves, that has the most fame and wealth and strength and beauty, and so there's the competition. We're trying to be God. Whether we know it or not, yeah? Whether we know it or not, we are in competition. We want to be that person that everyone admires, that everyone serves, that everyone talks about and adores and envies. So that's another way this manifests. Another is for the spiritualist who recognizes the material world, temporary, place of suffering, let me become spiritual. And then in my spiritual realization, I realize the material nature or the attachment, it's trivial, it's in the mind, it's perception. The transcendent is pure, eternal, spiritual, and I am that. The transcendent is God, and I am that God, apart from the material nature. So that's another way that this manifests. For many spiritualists, their goal is to detach from the material nature and become God. Yeah. So yeah, this has many different ways, many ways that we compete with God. Try to kill him philosophically, try to compete with him materially, or try to become him, merge with him spiritually as well. And in Bhakti Yoga we say that spiritualists wanting to become God is a spiritual suicide. You're on the spiritual path, great. So good start there. But that your realization is limited. So you realize the temporary position of the material nature, you realize that the triviality of that attachment and aversion and the roller coaster of life, and that your spirit, a good start. But you haven't realized that there's the Supreme Spirit and that we are a part of Spirit. Yeah? We are part and parcel of Spirit. And our position is not to become God, but to be in loving relationship with God. So that's what's emphasized in Bhakti Yoga. So nice, happy start or good start, but we say spiritual suicide because along the way you got tripped up and somehow started thinking that you were God. And then, yeah, great question. You have another one, please.
Sorry, everybody. My other question is, you spoke earlier about transcendental knowledge. Receiving and comprehending the knowledge is only the beginning of our path into Krishna consciousness. And then as we continue in our path of Krishna consciousness, following the regulative principles and so on, that Krishna eventually reveals himself to us. How does that happen? I mean, is it like a clairvoyant experience? Do you have a vision?
Yeah.
Is it like something like that, like you hear his voice, or do you dream with him? I'm just curious.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question, and I really appreciate it.
So that I get ready,
Yeah. So, this is such an important question, and I ask this question all the time because I'm a teacher of the Gita, and I speak words, but I don't want to speak words. I want to convey the revelation. I want to share that revelation that Krishna offers. But how do you do it? So I think about it all the time because I've had experience of working with the same group over a year, 2 years, and I've seen, and I know it's just not me because we read Prabhupada's purports, yeah? So every week we read, we discuss. And then at some moment I see realization, revelation with somebody in the group. And so how did it happen? It's Krishna's grace. There's some moment where Krishna, and it's not necessarily a dream or a clairvoyant vision, it's realization. And how does it happen? It's grace. That's all I can say. And I will also add though, you have received it. That's why you're here every week. So you've received it, but it's a continued unfolding. It's not there's one moment of grace and, oh, now I'm an enlightened being. That's it. We're done. Thanks, Krishna. It's a continual process of revelation. The revelation goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And how it happens? It happens that we sincerely try, that we come before Krishna, that we chant the name, that we read, that we associate, that we come to the sacred space. So we're doing these things to show Krishna, I'm here, I'm showing up, I'm sincere, I want this relationship. And then we have experiences of grace, of revelation, of insight, and that's the transformation of the heart. Our values are shifting, our identification is shifting, our life's purpose, our goals, our meaning, it all shifts and deepens. It's incremental, yeah. So how does it happen? It's a continued practice in a process. Lord Chaitanya says, sadhusanga, association with Vaishnavas, Nam Kirtan, engaging in Kirtan, Bhagavata Shravan, hearing the Gita, the Bhagavatam. Says, coming to the sacred space, Mathura Vasana, and he says service to the deity, like offering your food and those types of practices. He says these practices will awaken that relationship with Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your questions. We'll conclude. Yeah, we'll have some chanting. Thank you all so very much for your presence, engagement.
Haribol!
Oh, that was right when we were studying Gita.
So, thank you all for